What animals do when they know they're going to die. There's a behavior that veterinarians see so often they have an informal name for it. They call it the last walk. It's when an old, sick animal, one that could barely move, suddenly gets up, walks through the house, sniffs every room, sits near each member of the family, one by one, and then finds a quiet corner to lie down in, and doesn't wake up. Most people who've witnessed this assume it was coincidence, sentimentalism, that we project meaning onto random behavior because loss is hard to accept. But animal behavior researchers tell a completely different story. What these animals are doing in their final moments and what science has discovered about it will permanently change the way you see death in the animal kingdom. Let's start with the explanation that seems most obvious. Animals simply wander off to die alone. You've heard this. Cats disappear, old dogs seek isolation, elephants leave the herd. The classic theory is purely instinctive. Sick animals hide because predators target the weak. It's protection. It's survival. Sounds reasonable. Here's the problem. If this were purely about hiding weakness from predators, the behavior would be identical in domestic animals who have never seen a predator in their lives and in wild ones. It isn't. Researchers who tracked behavioral patterns in domestic animals during their final days documented something the hide the weakness theory simply cannot explain. Before isolating themselves, most animals go through a phase of intense closeness. They seek contact, they stay near their owners, they sniff more, they vocalize more, and only then comes the withdrawal. This isn't hiding weakness, this is a two-phase behavioral sequence, and each phase serves a completely different function. To understand what's actually happening, you need to understand how the animal brain processes death. And the first thing science had to admit is that animals perceive when they are dying. This was controversial for a long time. The idea of consciousness of one's own mortality seemed exclusively human. But in 2016, researchers published a review in the Animal Cognition Journal, covering more than 40 studies on end-of-life behavior in mammals. The conclusion was direct. Multiple species demonstrate specific behavioral responses to physiological signals of imminent death, responses that are distinct from ordinary illness behavior. It's not that they know about death philosophically, the way you do. It's that their nervous system detects organ failure, detects the drop in blood pressure, the shift in body temperature, the hormonal imbalance. And that cluster of signals activates a behavioral protocol, ancient, evolutionarily conserved, as if the brain had a script for that specific moment. Now I need to tell you about elephants, because what they do is by far the most documented and the most unsettling. Joyce Poole, a researcher who studied African elephants for over 40 years in Kenya, described something she witnessed repeatedly. When a member of the herd is dying, the others approach. They go silent. They touch the animal with their trunks, especially around the mouth and ears. But what she documented that nobody expected is this. Elephants don't leave after the animal dies. They stay, sometimes for days. And it's not because they're confused or waiting for the animal to wake up. Researchers observed specific grief behaviors, body swaying, low vocalizations, refusal to eat. But the most extraordinary part is what happens when they encounter the bones of other elephants, bones of animals that died years before, animals they never knew. They stop, they smell, they touch the bones with their trunks, they go silent, and sometimes they carry the bones for hundreds of meters before setting them down. This is not survival instinct. This is something else entirely. Ravens do something so similar that scientists use the same word to describe it. Researchers at the University of California, Davis published a study in 2015 documenting death rituals in American crows and ravens. When a raven dies, others from the surrounding area gather around the body. They remain silent for long periods, and then, and this is what captured the researchers' attention, they appear to actively investigate what killed that animal. They smell the environment, they examine the body, they look around. The researchers' hypothesis is that this serves collective learning. The ravens are gathering information about the danger that caused that death. But the behavior of collective silence before that, the gathering around the body, that has no purely utilitarian explanation. And ravens don't do this with other species, only with other ravens. Now I need to tell you about the behavior veterinarians report most frequently and the least scientifically documented because it's the hardest to study. What happens with domestic dogs and cats in the final hours of life? Palliative care veterinarians, a field that has grown enormously over the past decade, document a pattern with striking consistency. Animals that were lethargic, barely moving, hadn't eaten in days, become alert for a few hours, sometimes for a very short window. They seek physical contact, they lick, they vocalize, and then the decline accelerates rapidly. This has a name in human medicine too: terminal lucidity. It's documented in patients with advanced dementia, in comas, in organ failure, a period of clarity and awareness immediately before death. Nobody knows exactly why it happens. One hypothesis is that the brain, in a final effort, mobilizes every available reserve of neurotransmitters. Another hypothesis, more speculative but published in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Disease, is that the body's dying paradoxically reduces some of the neurological inhibitions that suppress consciousness during severe illness. What that means in plain terms, it's possible that the animal who spent the last few days barely recognizing you in those final hours is completely present and is choosing to be near you because it finally can. There's a study almost nobody knows about, published in 2019 by researchers at the University of Copenhagen, that attempted to map what happens in the brain at the moment of cardiac death. The results were published in PNAS, one of the most respected scientific journals in the world, and triggered an enormous debate. In the seconds immediately following cardiac arrest, brain activity does not drop to zero, it surges. A burst of high-frequency activity, more intense than any normal waking state. The researchers were careful. This proves nothing about subjective experience. It is not evidence of life after death. It is electrical activity in a failing organ. But it is a data point that no previous model of brain death had predicted. And it raises a question science still cannot answer. What is happening inside an animal's nervous system at that moment? Now I need to tell you something practical, because this part matters if you have an aging animal. Palliative care veterinarians have identified a set of behaviors that indicate an animal is in its final days, not its final weeks or months. And many owners miss these signs because they don't know what to look for. The first is a change in location preference. An animal that always slept in a specific spot and suddenly moves to a more isolated corner, darker, lower to the ground, especially if this is new behavior. The second is selective people-seeking. Not everyone, one specific person, sometimes a family member the animal normally ignored. Researchers believe that animals, like humans, in moments of extreme vulnerability, seek their deepest attachment bond, regardless of who they preferred in everyday life. The third, and this is the most important, is refusal to eat combined with maintained social contact. A sick animal that won't eat but still seeks human presence is in a different phase than one that isolates completely. The first one is still communicating. If you see these signs, don't wait for the next routine appointment. Call your vet today. But let me end with what I think is the most important thing in this entire video. For millennia, humans believed that consciousness of death,
The understanding that we are going to die was what separated us from other animals. It was the boundary. And the science of the last 20 years hasn't completely dismantled that idea, but it has created a gray zone nobody expected. Animals don't write wills, they don't perform religious rituals, they don't verbalize existential fear, but they gather around the dead. They carry the bones of those who are gone. They seek their own in moments of greatest vulnerability. They fall into collective silence in the face of death. And sometimes, in the final hours, they become completely present as if they know it's the last time. You can call that instinct, but the line between complex instinct and something that looks very much like awareness is a line science is still trying to find. And until it does, maybe your animal deserves the benefit of the doubt. If this video changed the way you think about animals, subscribe to this channel and tell me in the comments, have you ever witnessed any of these behaviors? In a dog, a cat, any animal at all? I want to know what you saw. The next video answers a question that sounds simple but isn't. Do animals feel grief? And what neuroscience found when they put dogs inside a brain scanner and showed them photos of their owners will surprise you.